Blessed to be a part of your day. Don't forget, Tuesday, the State of the Union watch party, 6 to 9 at Dave & Buster's, followed by our live show right afterwards. We'd love for you to join us. You can go to Dave & Buster's, or you can go to KIDOTalkRadio.com. Click on the link, and you, too, can join us. We would love to see you there. Obviously, it's going to be a great time, and you don't have to talk back to the radio or the TV. You can just join us at Dave & Buster's. And as I said before, that information is available at KIDOTalkRadio.com. In addition to that, I did a blog the other day. I hope you get a chance to take a look at it. Will Idaho become the next California? Think about that as we move along. By the way, the phone number for Dave & Buster's is 901-3806, 901-3806. More of your phone calls in a minute, but first, we go to our great friend, Dr. Lamero, talking about the great news in America and in Idaho today. Dr. Lamero, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hi, it's great to be back with you. I always love being on your show. You do a great show. You ask really good questions. And I'm always impressed with people that win the Marconi Award. You did it the same year Rush Limbaugh won.
Well, thank you, sir. It's a blessing to be mentioned in the same breath with Rush Limbaugh here. Now, I have to ask you, you're an optimist, and we love having you on. Certainly, we can all use some more optimism in our life. What do you make of this FBI thing with the texts, and now the FBI is blaming Samsung for losing 5 months of text? Maybe they should have gone with Apple.
Wow, isn't that something? Well, my overall take on it is pretty simple. There appears to be growing evidence that the FBI conspired to let Hillary Clinton off the hook with regard to potential scandals and potential crimes that she may have committed, and actually worked to try to bring down Trump, to try to bring down his presidency. You know, they talked about an insurance policy in case he won. Well, it now appears like they were trying to do everything they could to hurt him once he was elected. So I think you have something that borders on probably the biggest potential scandal in American history, where you had a federal agency, law enforcement agency of all things, trying to influence an election and then bring down a new president. Now, it's hard for me to say that because it's astounding, but the evidence keeps coming in from all directions. We're going to have to wait and see if this happens. But if it turns out this is true, I think a number of people are going to be going to jail.
Now, Dr. Lamero, we've seen this with the Internal Revenue Service. We've seen it with the NSA. How can this be different during the Trump administration, and who's going to arrest or charge the lawmakers if the FBI has indeed lost credibility?
Well, they're losing it quickly. I'm not talking about just in the news media and pundits talking about it, but among the American people, they're starting to lose faith in the law enforcement agency here, the best in the world, the FBI. And the answer is that it's impossible to believe. I even read something this morning before coming on the show, somebody talking about there's no way in the world the FBI can lose messages. That's not possible because these are the people who are used to collecting data, collecting information. But, you know, one of the many messages that was released this week was a message that said, maybe we need to get rid of these messages. Now, doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah, I would say.
You know, like they're actually thinking already ahead of time, saying we've got to get rid of these. And then we have 5 months, critical time period between the transition of President-elect Trump to President Trump, from the transition all the way up until the day Mueller is appointed, and the next day the tweets go back to coming, or the messages went back to coming out again. But 5 months, critical time period. That's the time period when Comey was fired. That's the time period when a lot of things went on relative to this case. And it looks like right at the moment that's disappeared, just like Lois Lerner's IRS text messages and other messages. And it's a little bit too much to believe. These coincidences, you know, Hillary Clinton lost, 30,000 emails that she was sort of responsible for by placing them on a home server in a Denver bathroom mom and pop bathroom business. It was in their bathroom, the server. And then Hillary Clinton also lost a whole bunch of the State Department messages when she was there. When she left, the messages disappeared at the same time. Isn't that amazing? And so we've got all sorts of missing messages, and one has to think, if you're a tough prosecutor, that this is like a cover-up.
Indeed, but then when you've got the Attorney General being interviewed by the special prosecutor, who do you trust to go after Peter Strzok, to go after Lisa Page, and to get them to flip to find out how big this alleged conspiracy was?
Well, I think because even Mueller was involved in the Clinton Uranium One deal, which is another potential scandal. So there's all sorts of overlapping. I mean, these same people were involved in everything. Peter Strzok was the one who interviewed Michael Flynn, and that's what caused Flynn to get an indictment. And so these people are overlapping in all directions. I think the only thing we can do is bring in a special counsel who's totally outside the FBI, outside the Justice Department, has no axe to grind. You can find people who are, middle of the road. They're not, flagrantly biased in one direction or another. Somebody who's got a clean history and is above board and will take an independent look at all of this and just plain go through the whole mess, because I'll tell you, it's getting to be an incredible mess. I believe, and I don't have the evidence to say it for sure, because it's only dripping and dropping out, but I believe this will be the biggest scandal in American history. It's going to make Watergate look like small potatoes.
On the other hand, though, Watergate was aided by the press. The press seems to suppress this and wants to throw everything to the Russian investigation. Who in the press besides you and Fox News, Dr. Lamero, will make this happen? Because, again, there won't be any public pressure to do anything, right?
Well, you're right that, the places like the old mainstream media, I call them the old mainstream media because they're no longer representing the mainstream. But at any rate, these folks may not be pushing it, but don't forget, they're on the way down themselves. Their business models are broke. They're laying off editors. They're losing viewership and listenership. Talk radio is where it's at. You're where it's at. Social media is where it's at. The new media is where it's at. With every major presidential election in our history, and I went through that in Great News for America, the book, I pointed out that you get a new mainstream media. We have a new mainstream media. And by the way, Trump's communicating. People complain that he's too rough in his tweets, and maybe he is a little rough. But on the other hand, he's getting his point out. People are listening to him. Look at Shutdown Schumer. He lost that round with Trump.
Indeed. Dr. Lamero, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
They can go to greatnewsforamerica.com, greatnewsforamerica.com. I have a new book coming out. It's just a few weeks away. We're waiting for our copies and everything. That's going to be more Great News for America, and there is more Great News for America coming, and I talk about it in the book.
Dr. Lamero, let's go back to the government shutdown. It looked like we had the old playbook from the Obama administration, heck, even from the Clinton administration, where the government shut down, we blame the Republicans, and it goes on and on. The Republicans capitulate, but that didn't happen this time. Is the model broken? Your thoughts post-shutdown, who won, who lost?
Well, obviously Donald Trump won. The American people won because this is what they wanted. They're in favor of helping the DACA children, the true children. They want border security. They want a wall. And they want the government to work, and they want to have their military paid salaries. They don't want to shut down the military for the sake of some illegal immigrants or even an immigration deal. So the American people won, Donald Trump won. The model of shutting down the government and basically holding the government hostage by the Democratic Party is over. It worked 19 times before. It failed this time. And it failed big time, and the reason it failed is because Trump wouldn't budge down. He took a negotiating stance and stuck with it.
Dr. Lamero with us at KIDO Talk Radio. So, Dr. Lamero, let's move on a bit. What about the DACA deal? Trump said he was going to ship people home. His base says, don't back out on this, Mr. President. You live in Colorado, obviously a western state like us here in Idaho. How does that resonate with your folks there, and how do you think it plays out?
Well, the American people are against illegal immigration. They're for legal immigration. And there's a special case. There's, the 700,000 DACA people who had to fulfill certain requirements to stay, and that they don't have a permanent solution. And the DACA approach that Obama took was unconstitutional. It was illegal. It was outside the system. He basically told the government not to prosecute them. Well, the American people, and we're talking about the correct polls. Some of the polls are a little bit warped, but in my opinion, but the real polls would indicate the American people have a soft spot for these kids who came of not doing something wrong. It was their parents that brought them here, and they want to see some solution.
But in fairness, a lot of them are in their mid-30s or whatever, and certainly they could have gone to the immigration attorney.
Well, we have to distinguish between DACA, which is about 700,000, just a little bit under 700,000 people, and the Dreamers. Dreamers and DACAs are different. Dreamers are a much larger group, in the millions probably, of people who haven't filled in DACA forms, not even qualified to in many cases. So there are several things, and the thing going on in Washington, the subterfuge, is that the Dreamers and DACA are all the same. And you're correct to point out that a lot of those Dreamers are way older than, and came in at a different time than the little kids did with their parents. So that is one of the reasons why funny things are happening, because people like Lindsey Graham, they want to see everybody get amnesty, and American people don't want that.
Dr. Romero, one more time, if people want to get a hold of you, get your book, get your new book, or just have a good chat, what can they do? GreatNewsForAmerica.com. That's all spelled out, one word, GreatNewsForAmerica.com. I have about 135 pages on my website, so there's lots of free information, lots of information about the presidency, of which I specialize in, and information about polling and other kinds of things are in my books and in my website. Dr. Lamerlo, you're always gracious and insightful. We appreciate you, sir.
I love your show, and I love Idaho. It's a great state.
Well, we will see you soon. Take care, sir.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Let's get to some of your phone calls. Liberty Linda, who's been very, very patient at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Thank you. Yes, good morning, Kevin. I just have a comment this morning. I don't really care for the word gender. To me, it's kind of a non-word. I prefer the words woman or man with respect towards both. And then I was really happy that you had Steve Ackerman on this morning. We haven't heard from him for quite a while.
Well, he's been on the trail.
Yes, I know they're very busy, but it was just nice hearing from him and how, he and Russ Fulcher are doing. And, I hope that we get to see the two of them at our wonderful State of the Union debate party on the 30th. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, everybody's invited to our State of the Union party. Maybe they'll RSVP.
Yeah. And let's see now, where was that being held? It was at...
That's at Dave & Buster's.
Dave & Buster's, yes.
That's right. We'll be in the back room there.
Yes. To that. And, we're always, it's an honor to hear you, that you had your Marconi Award. We're very proud of you in regard to that. But, you're always number one in our book, Kevin.
Well, God bless you, Liberty Linda. We appreciate you. By the way, that number to call is 901-3806, so you don't have to ask for it.
Wonderful. Easy word to call. Not word, number to call. You have a wonderful day today, Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go to Gene in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning, Kevin. Hi. I've been listening for about the last half hour or so, I guess, to the different men calling in, making their comments to the senator.
Yep. Go ahead, please. I'm just listening.
I'm sorry.
No
Okay.
worries. I like to listen. That's a little, it throws people off, but go ahead, please.
Okay. Anyway, I would just like to say I wholeheartedly agree with everything that they have said. I believe that she does play the victim card, and I think that she makes the truly strong women, that she just gives all women a bad reputation and makes us all appear weak and incapable. And I would just like to say I'm a 55-year-old white female living here in Idaho most of my life, and I'm so glad to live in Idaho where the men are still strong and willing to speak out against the overwhelming attacks on white males in our society in these days that we live in.
Well, Jean, thank you for that, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, you're welcome. I listen every day.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO, Kevin Miller in the morning. Thank you for joining us. Blessed to be part of your day. Don't forget, is Idaho how Idaho can avoid being California East simply by doing a few things that I've advocated in my latest blog at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Don't forget that this Saturday it is the Canyon County Kids Expo. We are very excited to be there. I'll be there from 10 to 2 or something like that at the Lost Kids booth. You can meet the Paw Patrol, and that is from 10 to 6 at the Ford Idaho Center. Hope to see you there. We are continuing on about the idea of the Women's March, your thoughts on that. In addition to that, the latest concerning the presidency. Before we get to your calls, let's go to, and we continue on here. Let's go to Holly in Caldwell at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hi, Kevin. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the attack on men and how, unfortunately, that Women's March didn't do anything for the respective women, in my opinion, wearing vaginas on their head and trying to promote things in that way. Just there are a lot of women that were not happy about that. There's a good book called Why Gender Matters, and it talks about from the kindergarten on how little boys are really not catered to in the school and how the education system caters to girls. And unfortunately, then they're even told you're not really male or female and trying to make everybody completely equal. And we weren't created all the same for a reason. And I just is disheartening that they would think that that was not a unifying protest. It didn't really help advance their agenda or solve the issue.
Well, do you want to be a victim or do you want to be a solution?
That's what I'm saying. And I just don't feel like that event and the message that they carry is really helping be the solution. There's also a video on my Facebook page from PragerU that kind of supports that same book. But and I'm not saying that, we don't need to promote men or women. We need to come up with a solution and realize that we're all equal partners and we need to work together. But in all of my experience, at least one partner in the relationship usually needs to take a little cut on their career and take care of the kids. And otherwise the kids suffer. So, like, for example, my friend, she works and her husband stays home. But at either rate, somebody has to take care of the kids. So,
Holly, thank you for the call, and thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
Thanks.
Arvell in Fruitland on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Arvell.
Good morning, Kevin. Concerning this men and women issue, I'm going to sound real simplistic in what I'm about to say, but I believe there's truth in it, and that is the world needs love. Now, love is doing what's best for others regardless of what it costs us. And so in our distinctive roles, men need to be servants to their wives and families, and wives need to be servants to their husbands and families. Real love comes from God. He demonstrated love to us and empowers us to love others. And so what we all need is Jesus' spirit of love in our lives. God is the answer. There is no other answer except from God. Man just can't come up with it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
God bless. We appreciate you. Thank you, Arvell, for the call. Coming up next, we'll check in with one of our Fox correspondents. Remember, when you're hearing Fox News on the radio in the Treasure Valley, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
Do want to remind you, coming up tomorrow, Heidi Harris will join us. That's right, our great friend Heidi Harris will join us from Las Vegas. We'll get her thoughts on the issues that matter to you. We'll talk a little Donald Trump. We'll talk a little bit about the FBI and everything else. It's always a pleasure to have her on from Las Vegas, our great friend Heidi Harris. In addition to that, don't forget our State of the Union watch party at Dave & Buster's. More details at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Coming up, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News radio reporter, live from Capitol Hill. She'll join us to talk a little bit about, well, the CIA recently came up with the number of threats to us here in America. And by the way, we have Rachel now. Let's go live to Capitol Hill at the Fox Bureau. Rachel Sutherland joining us at KIDO Talk Radio. So the CIA director has outlined the new threats to America. Is this just a rehash, Rachel, of the usual suspects?
Yeah, pretty much. He was speaking to the American Enterprise Institute yesterday and talking about the threats. Mike Pompeo really addressing a lot on North Korea, talking about, we've heard this before, but that they're about a handful of months away from being fully nuclear capable. He did also mention the scare in Hawaii and talked about that's all the more reason to deal with this as Americans are living in fear. One interesting take, though, he had on this idea of reunifying the Korean Peninsula, he was saying that Kim Jong-un is partly ramping up the nuclear program and using it to intimidate the South into reunification. Instead of it being, happy clapper time, it's more about, you could liken it to an ex coming back and saying, come back to me or I'm going to blow up your house kind of thing. So some interesting nuggets that came out of this. There was also, we got a picture of how President Trump gets his daily intelligence briefings, which, by the way, are done in person almost every day, as in contrast to President Obama, who usually just took the big book of secrets and didn't really have an in-person briefing. Every president has a different style, but given a lot of the criticism of President Trump and his, especially having to deal with the intelligence community, he does take those briefings in person, and Mike Pompeo was saying that he really is engaged and asks some very tough questions.
Indeed. How big is North Korea still at the top of the list?
I think it is right now as far as worldwide threats. I mean, of course, terrorism is still out there. It's something that Pompeo was saying the CIA is all over the world, always trying to figure out the next move as far as ISIS and other terrorists. But yeah, right now North Korea is the big threat with this continuing nuclear program, and but he was saying he's hopeful that in a year we'll still be saying that they're a couple of months away. I mean, not that that's great, but it's more of a matter of almost containment. Indeed, Rachel. Anything else we should be looking out for this week? Well, there's a lot going on with the Russia probe. We're hearing that obviously Jeff Sessions had a meeting, and and by the way, be looking out for more on immigration. It seems that there's just really a standoff between, they're on this wall issue. Democrats have pulled back on funding, says we're not going to give you any money now, and so really they're just playing hardball. Rachel, we appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks. And joined now by the publisher of the Gem State Patriot, Tea Party Bob. Good morning.
Mr. Miller, how are you this morning? I've been listening very patiently to our former Senator, Nicole Lefebvre, and I have a few comments. I've listened to the entire interview with Senator Lefebvre this morning, and looking back on more than 40 years of being in the investment business, which is one of the most competitive businesses you can find, I have to say the Senator is blowing smoke and has lost her sense of reality. There were many women, including my wife in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, who elevated themselves to the level in my business and broke the glass ceiling through hard work without any legislation to make it happen. Even when I was running my own firm, promoting people and increasing their salaries was always a matter of performance, not gender. There's certainly discrimination out there in business, but that is only if you allow it to happen. I've found that if people don't like where they work or they feel they're being discriminated against, their option is always to find greener pastures and seek better employment opportunities. You can't legislate equality in business no matter how much you try, because businesses, in most cases, are personal. Large business only employ 38% of the private sector workforce, while small businesses employ over 53%. And in fact, 99% of employing organizations are small businesses. 95% of these employ less than 10 employees. If you're instrumental in helping these businesses make a profit, you're most likely going to get paid a good wage, as you both have the same goals. You're aligned. When you try to legislate equality, it causes resentment for the business owners who feel obligated to make bad choices and hire employees and promote employees who are not aligned with their goals. So it's not much different than government legislating the minimum wage, when you have to pay regardless of who the employees are or how they perform. Very simple matter of economics.
Tea Party Bob, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, have a good day.
Always a pleasure. Hey, Tea Party Bob.
Yes, sir.
How was Horseshoe Bend?
Horseshoe Bend is snowy, I have to tell you. But I haven't found a spot yet.
Well, we hope to see you at the State of the Union party.
Absolutely. We'll be there with bells on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, our great friend Tea Party Bob. Have you heard the new ad airing on television lately concerning education? It's once again, it's the legislative season, so our friends at Don't Fail Idaho are back.
No matter who you are, as Idahoans, we share two things in common. Every day, the future of our state attends an education system outranked by 47 other states. And we make lower average weekly wages than our counterparts in 49 other states. Make education the #1 priority. Make a strong Idaho a reality. Seek the facts at don'tfailidaho.org.
And there we have it. A pretty startling thing. Of course, I believe we've made progress, and not to belittle this ad, but we've gone from, 50 to 48. And really, what will solve the education problem? Does that mean more money? We've increased education funding. And when we have folks on for governor, whether it's Congressman Labrador, Dr. Alquist, Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, we asked them about education. You go back to Senator Sidaway's comments many years ago saying that we're in a crisis. And whether it's in, Ada County, Canyon County, or the counties to the east, there's a teacher shortage. Obviously, we have enough people that are going to school for education. How do we get them to stay in the state? And when we see the number of students coming in, shouldn't that be able to correlate to paying people to do a great job? These are questions the next governor is going to have to answer, and really depends on if the state school superintendent, Sherry Ibarra, is reelected as well. Doing the nitty-gritty, going to the schools, finding out what works. This is a beautiful state, and there are challenges. And that's what we would like to see from some of these folks contending to replace Governor Otter. Governor Otter, charismatic, fired up as always. On the other hand, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, when you're looking at education in this state, when you're looking at wages in the state, those are things that really need to be addressed, right? Those are issues. So, again, every year we have this ad.
No matter who you are, as Idahoans, we share two things in common. Every day, the future of our state attends an education system outranked by 47 other states. And we make lower average weekly wages than our counterparts in 49 other states. Make education the #1 priority. Make a strong Idaho a reality. Seek the facts at don'tfailidaho.org.
Now, haven't we done that by having these task force on education that we hear so much about? Or, it's what we do. We're the only show in America that goes to schools, half a year, really? Almost, half the year we're in schools, and hearing the good news of teachers, of educators, the challenges, if you will. And I was looking it up the other day. It was, 8 years of going to schools in the state of Idaho. It's a lot of schools, a lot of kids. We've brought kids from middle school through graduating high school. And I remember the first school it was Wilder, I believe, Wilder or Middleton. And as we gear up for another season of Promote Our School, Secure Our Future, brought to you by CapEd and Team Mazda Subaru, you take a look at education. What's it going to take? And the correlation between education and wages. I think if I'm running for governor, those are my big issues. Getting the wages up. we're building $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 homes are the only people that are going to be able to afford to live in them are the folks that are retiring from California or made big money on their homes in California? That doesn't seem right. Barb in Sunny Slope with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Barb.
Good morning, Kevin. On this education issue, I agree that we have a real problem, and I do agree that it would be good to pay teachers more. But I remember back many years ago, let's say now 30 years, when I lived in New Hampshire. And at that time, New Hampshire was one of the lowest, it was like 48 or 50, paying states towards education. And yet at that time, I don't know where it stands now, it was number one educationally. So I would have to say that just shoving money into education does not improve education. One of the things that they did was they had a teacher shortage. And so they had teachers that if you wanted to teach math, if you had a degree in math, you didn't have to have a degree in teaching. Or if you had a degree in English, you didn't have to have a degree in teaching, et cetera, science to science. So that was really a way that their education was much, much better. Also, I think part of the thing with improving education is probably going to irritate your former senator that was on a few minutes ago or a half hour ago or whatever, is that it's parental input. And so you need to have, in a sense, a parent in the home, because there has to be parents that are into education and willing to support it, willing to help with it. One of the things they had in back east was they had a lot of family and parental input. Every year we had these school board meetings, and everybody in town went, and we decided what curriculum was going to be used. The State Board of Education may have said, you need to change to this, but we would decide ourselves if we were going to, and often we would decide no. And because we saw no advantage to it, and there was just so much parental input. Parents were in the schools all the time, helping with art or helping with plays or helping with something. I think that part of the issue to low educational scores at this time is parental input as much as anything. That's my
right, but I don't think you can legislate that.
No, that does seem to be an issue, doesn't it?
And by the, I was a product of those public schools when you were in New Hampshire, so.
Okay.
That's when I graduated high school. So yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, and as you know, I am a teacher, so I'm not just speaking from a theoretical point here. I taught in New Hampshire.
No, I'm with you, but I think again, I don't know if the parents are ever going to come back to the classrooms if they can. Number one, number two. I mean, we've had all these committees and such. Okay, so we're 48th out of 50. We run ads. What do they want? As you said, Barb, just throwing money at it doesn't help. What are you talking about? Where's the elbow grease in the solution?
Yeah, the elbow grease, unfortunately, is with the parents. Maybe, if we throw money at it, the reality is we're going to be throwing money really at the administrators and the paperwork pushers.
Well, and again, here's the hidden problem. We all know this, that you want to reform education, start consolidating school districts and eliminating the upper tier there. That's what people have been urging for years, that we're top heavy when it comes to education costs.
Yes, we definitely are top heavy when it comes to education. That's really true. And I don't know how you get parents more involved, whether it be in the schools or at home. And but just throwing money at it is not going to help it. I don't know how we do that. But I just want to say that just because we are so low in funding for education is not really the reason, in my estimation, as to why we're so low educationally.
Well,
I think it has a lot to do with parents.
How should we put it? Live free or die, Barb. There you go.
Live free or die, yes. I agree. When I was teaching in New Mexico, which at the time was State 48, and I taught out of 86 school districts in New Mexico, I was teaching in number 86. I mean, so I was probably teaching in one of the worst school districts in the country, and I had 10th graders that couldn't read, literally. And what I saw there was appalling to me, in part because of the parents. The parents were anti-teacher, anti-school, anti-education. You know, you went to school, you went to college if you were not good enough to do something else, was their attitude.
Barbara, it's got a very different world than we live in today. Barbara, I got to run, but thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, talking about Idaho education, whether or not it's time to spend more money, number one. And number two, the NFL says no to the First Amendment. Details next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget Glenn Beck, Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity, and the newest addition to the program, Lars Larson, right after Sean, beginning tonight at 6. So we are talking about education. That's something we brought up a little earlier today. The NFL punting on the First Amendment. Here's our own Brett Barrett on KIDO Talk Radio.
A tough season for the NFL with sinking ratings and constant controversy over protesting players who kneel during the national anthem. And that controversy is now casting a shadow on the league's premier showcase, the Super Bowl. The NFL has rejected a $30,000 print ad from a veterans group for the game's program that addressed the issue with these two words: please stand. AMVETS, founded by World War II veterans, had already modified the wording at the request of the company handling the program, but the league has final say, and AMVETS now accuses the NFL of corporate censorship.
The NFL, bottom line, just denied us our opportunity for free speech.
An NFL spokesman said the big game has never been a place for advertising that could be considered by some as a political statement. He said the Super Bowl will salute vets and the military on the field, and that the NFL had asked AMVETS to consider alternative wording. Please honor our veterans, but the group didn't respond in time.
We didn't place this ad, please stand, for any political reason whatsoever. It was our way of just getting the American public to stand in their beliefs.
President Trump kicked off a season of controversy by tweeting about the kneeling players and personally denouncing them. The NFL naturally wants today's focus on the Patriots and the Eagles, not political ads. But since any on-field protest will draw huge media coverage, the league does seem to be blocking the other side's message.
There we have it from our own Howard Kurtz. Kevin Miller in the morning here, 580-5436. So it's okay to exercise the First Amendment if you're a player, but if you're a veteran, keep it to yourself. Crazy double standard. Let's get you to traffic and weather. And, you know, getting back to this NFL thing, you would think that they've learned their lesson. I mean, we're talking about ratings tanking. People are tuning out to the NFL. I don't know. I know we're going to have a State of the Union party. I don't know if we dare have an anti-NFL watch party. What would we do? Watch the Puppy Bowl? Would we watch something else? It's just something to consider. But, okay, here you have a group of veterans, and those of us that are so blessed to live in this country, you know, we'll never know what it was like to lose someone, to be away from our loved ones. Heck, most of us get stressed out if we have to stay at work longer than 15 and 20 extra minutes. We're so blessed. And so you have veterans. You know what was on the ad in the NFL program that they didn't want to put in the Super Bowl? Hashtag, please stand. Hashtag, please stand. What is so political about that? Okay, what is more political? Disrespecting the flag, which in America you have the freedom to do, except in every other corporation but the NFL, or having a hashtag in a print ad saying, please stand. Not taking a smack at anybody, but just saying, please stand. And yet the NFL, who has grown so much, and by the way, in the past 4 years, serious ratings decline. And look, the game isn't the same. The athletes aren't the same. I know you're going to say, Kevin Miller, you sound like old man, get off my lawn. But really, you know, what do we love about the NFL? Well, we love our teams. It's an escape. Politics is so overwhelming these days. We all know that when we listen here to KIDO Talk Radio. I totally get it. We all want an escape. So maybe the NFL should ease up a little and do what the NBA did. In their last collective bargaining agreement, players have to stand for the national anthem. It's sad that it comes to that in America today, right? Some people call it progress. I call it, well, you fill in the blank. Always appreciate Ray Amaya. Outstanding job as always. Don't forget tomorrow, Heidi Harris. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Glenn Beck is next. God bless and keep the faith.